Welcome to the Clock Tower. I'm Brandon, and today we're looking at Slime 3. This is our second deck in Slime 3, and this is the 8th Salvage build, playing into the new package that comes with the set that has some pretty fun profiles to play with and can do some interesting things with the deck. So, kind of diving right in, looking at the level 3 combo, this is kind of what we're playing for this deck. It's an on-play heal. It also can ditch a character card to be able to burn 2, and then gets 1500 power. But you do require having 3 Demon Lord characters on the field, which that is like the new secondary trait for this new set. There are a couple cards beforehand that have that trait as well, but this is a little bit more in focus in this third set. With that in mind, it kind of restricts some of the deck building choices to make this deck happen. And so we're going to kind of dive into some of those here in just a moment. We do pair this off with the level 1 Milim combo. This allows us to be able to potentially remove opponents' characters from the back row to try to help remove some of their support pieces to stunt their growth, so that way you can continue to grow and continue to do well and continue to hopefully loop your combo over and over again while stunting the growth of your opponent. With that in mind, not only does it remove the back row, it also, if the reveal on the top of your deck is a character or the 1/1 event, you can add that to hand. So it has a potential +1 attached with it, but it also is a -1 to your opponent. So this is really good in the early game, and for regards to removing your opponent's stuff, assuming that it's already on the field. It makes things more challenging as your opponents get into later parts of the game, and they have less level 0 characters in their back row. So to kind of help facilitate this combo and helps facilitate this functioning of the deck, let's start off at level 0 and kind of dive right into the profiles with this deck. First up, we have the new Rimuru Yellow 0 that allows us to be able to pay 2 to refresh our deck on play, and you can also ditch the event that we don't run for extra power. So realistically, the only use this card has in this deck is a pay 2 refresh of your deck, which is a nice bailout option if you need it. It also helps prevent damage in the long term. It also tries to help balance out compression and ratios and whatnot. It's a very niche tool, but it's useful when it's there, and having access to it with this deck is important. Next up, we have the level 0 Luminous. This is from Green. Green being the new color for set 3. This is a pay 1, clock yourself, and discard a card to look at 6 cards and choose 2. Specifically, they have to be Demon Lord characters, not the Demon Continent, the main trait. So a +1, filter 1, mill 6. And it's also up to, so you can choose to not dig as deep with this as well. But a potential move 6 cards, especially early in deck. So the clock tool to help get you to level 1 faster. It's a filter tool as well to potentially filter out a new card coming in. So really, this is a really early card. If you're using this later in the game, you're probably not using it for the effect. Next up, we have the Shuna. This is not a Demon Lord character, but I thought it was worth the add to the deck anyway. It's worth noting that this card can potentially +2 when it is sent to Waiting Room by pay 1, clock self. If the 2 top characters are Demon Continent, the main trait, you can add them to hand. Notably, this fails on events and climaxes, but I think it's worth the inclusion just to try to plus hand size, because there are tools to be able to filter out your hand as you go. I also have run one of this level 0 Milim. This is a potential hand to stock card, so be able to try to plus a little bit more in that department if you're overhand. It also has the ability to sack itself off to look at the top 4 of your deck and add a character. So another potential mill piece, another potential tool to refund stock a little bit. If you pair this with the upcoming Brainstorm, you can potentially go through 9 cards and refund the stock from your own hand ahead of time, so it doesn't cost you any additional stock to do that for that piece. Effectively, what you're doing is pay 1, pitch 1 to mill through 9 as well, playing this card to stage. The Brainstorm itself that I was just talking about gives 500 power to all of your other Demon Lord characters, so that is a global 500 power to that off trait. The Brainstorm is a pay 1, rest 2 characters, which is a little expensive regarding the cost, but you're able to mill 5 cards and then salvage based off the number of climaxes revealed, specifically that salvage climax trigger. So that kind of limits the deck building as well, restricting the deck a little bit more so to try to force that 8 salvage build. We then run 2 of the Benimaru. On play, you're able to look at the top card of your deck and either put it there or put it into Waiting Room, so potential mill 1. It also makes sure that you don't have to guarantee that you trigger the card that you see. It is also a pay 1 climax swap, so you're able to get the climax you need at the times you need it. Then we also run the new Rimuru in blue. This is the center runner Rimuru. This also has the ability that when the damage you take is canceled, you can jump to stock with it. So potential plus to stock, especially when cards are able to step over this at level 1. I really like this card in this deck. Next up, we have the level 0 Carrion. This gives our level 1 combo an additional 1,000 power and the ability to look at the top 2 cards and choose your trigger. So effectively, you have to guarantee or try to guarantee the condition for the level 0 climax combo. It also is a bond with the level 1 combo itself, but is a search bond. You have to ditch a character, but you're able to ditch any character to go get the level 1 combo from your deck. It's a pretty useful tool to try to get that combo in play and online as quick as possible. Last up for our zeros, we have the Child on the Inside Milim. This is our stock swap. This is from the original set. It's a pay 3 stock swap and a level 0 reverser. So being able to deal with level 0 pieces that are too big, but also to be able to stock swap at any point in time in the game is a really useful tool, especially when you want to make sure your opponents aren't abusing their stock. So, useful tool across the board. That's level 0. Noticeably, level 0 is very much about trying to get those cards to hand and or trying to maintain deck state. All of those utility tools are essential for this game and essential for the growth as the game goes on. At level 1, we have our level 1 combo, which we already talked about. It's sitting at 6k by itself, 7k with a Carrion in the back row, 7-5 with the Brainstorm in the back row as well, 8-5 with the Climax in play. So 8-5 is a relatively big number to be able to step over things. Obviously, it doesn't hit things like Alice currently that are running rampant in the meta. Outside of that, any traditional 1k1 deck is going to be able to step over and potentially even step over standby targets too. You can potentially force over standby 1/1s that sit at 7-5 base and force them to use their resources to try to either defend them or we'll lose them. So really interesting potential there. If you only double combo but have 2 of the Carrion, that 1,000 power does stack. So they'll be sitting at 9-5, which is like typically tying that counter range potential. So really interesting that this level 1 combo can reach those thresholds on offense. Defensively, it sits at 5-5 with the Carrion and the Brainstormer, but they're still pretty useful Milims. We also run the Leon at 1. This allows us to be able to, when it's sent to waiting room, look at the top 4, choose a Climax that has the Salvage trigger in play and add it to hand and discard a card from hand. So if we need to get Climaxes into hand, this is an effective tool to be able to do that. Notably, we can actually play over this card and send it to waiting room, kind of force it on our turn, so that way we're able to use it as needed. Especially for our endgame combo, if we need to play this down and then play over it to try to get the Climax, we can do that. Rounding our level 1s, we have the 1/1 event. This allows us that if we have 3 Demon Lord characters, we are able to then salvage 2 characters from waiting room and then discard a card. So effectively allows us to hand filter 2. It's a pay 1, hand filter 2, which could effectively allow us to be able to recur our level 1 combo kind of idea, or get the Leon back from waiting room kind of idea. So we're able to kind of recur cards from waiting room. This is our hand filter tool for the deck. This also is able to be grabbed off of the level 1 combo, so we have access to the event through that as well. So a lot of potential here, a lot of tools here to be able to get the pieces we need. Entering into level 2, we only have 1 tool piece at level 2. This is our back row assist. It assists all Demon Lord characters 1,500 power, so at level 2, all of a sudden, our combo can actually reach a really sustainable number there. It also can boost our early plays as well, and additionally, it gives our endgame combo an additional 1,000 power, and that they cannot be backed up. So effectively, we're able to deny our opponents from a good number of counterplays when playing against our endgame combo with this card in play. Hitting level 3, we have our level 3 combo, which we already talked about, but we also run alongside that the early play Milim. If you have 4 more Demon Lord characters, this gets -1 level in hand, so having a full board of Demon Lord characters, the new trait, we're able to early play this. It gets additional 2,000 power and Encore. Noticeably, it's a Demon Lord Encore, so you have to have that specific trait character in hand to discard for that. Effectively, it's a 10-5 early play that has a relatively easy condition with the number of Demon Lord characters we have in play. It also has the ability of, when played, look at the top cards equal to the number of your characters. So if you're early playing this, you can look up to 5 cards and add 1. Notably, you can add any card, so this allows us to be able to get the pieces we need off the top of deck, either for that immediate turn or for the following turn kind of idea. But last up, rounding out the deck itself, we have the Dragonoid Milim. This is from set 1. On play, reveal the top card of the deck. If it's a character, burn 1. gets powerful when everything else attacks, and then on the final swing of this, you can pay 3 when you reverse a character and clock kick it. So that will send it to the opponent's clock. So trying to force damage that is very hard to deny with this card. Sits at 9/5 base, 1,000 for every other, so if this attacks less, that's 11/5. You have the back row assist. It would then be sitting at 13, climax 14k. 14k is pretty decent to be able to get that reverse off. So having this as a potential off finisher as well, or alongside our finisher, I think makes a lot of sense, just because it has potential smaller instances of damage, so we can try to stick that small damage in and close the game very precisely. Notably, it does need the reverse for the clock kick, so you're more likely fronting with this card at some point. Just because the others have anti-backup for the level 3 top end, this would not because of the back row. It would just only get the power because of the trait. So just be careful when playing with this deck to make sure that you are playing around defensive counters when playing with the Milim off finisher as well. So overall, this deck, I think, is able to do some really interesting things. You're able to mess with your opponent's back row. You're able to kind of recur your combo relatively efficiently. You're able to play your zeros to help get you the bonuses you probably need for that mid and end game. It should help you also set up that end game pretty efficiently as well, with the selectivity and with the additional power boosts across the field with the additional pieces parts. So that being said, this has been the Slime deck. We're going to have some gameplay for this on Thursday. Next week, we're going to have a clock talk. We're going to be looking at a little more extensive history of the ban list and how it got to the point where we are today. After that, we'll have on Thursday next week another 5 cards, 5 minutes. This time looking at Slime, getting those 5 cards, 5 minutes out there. With that in mind, thanks so much for watching. Do the YouTube thing, like, share, comment, subscribe, and until next time, have a good one.